This is 1 in 44, a presentation of Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 44 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And with me today, I'm going to have a couple people with me today, but to start us off is Paul Perea, who is the co-author of Josh's Friends, a wonderful book with a fantastic backstory. And Paul, you're going to start us off talking about how this all came to be. And in a little while, we're going to meet the other author and hear a little bit about the inspiration for Josh's Friends and a few other books. So, Paul, tell us about yourself.
Okay. I'm a native New Yorker, born in Brooklyn, raised on Long Island. Just moved out to the West Coast a few weeks ago.
Oh, there's a change.
Yeah, it's a big change. So I'm just adjusting to that, although it's not that bad of an adjustment when you have 75 degrees and no humidity in the
that is not
middle
bad.
of April.
A little jealousy happening here, but that's okay. Keep going. Keep going. We won't kick you off quite yet.
Let's see. I've done a lot of things in my life. Currently, right now, I'm supporting it's a residential, senior living residential gated community, and I'm the resident services director for them. So I take care of all the residents. My degree in college was in writing. I've written a couple of books, also business, a lot of sales and marketing and so forth. So I met Josh Gablowski through my wife, Jennifer. And Jennifer also has been a writer and a writing coach and a ghostwriter. And Josh's dad, Mark, was one of her clients years ago. And they became really good friends. And, Josh was involved in a serious car accident at the age of 3.
Yes.
2 semi-trucks collided with his car, left for dead. So it was a very traumatic experience. But, if I could give an award for the best dad ever, it would be Mark. Mark never, he was always there for everything. And Josh has been through so much in terms of, brain damage and all of the therapies and all of the things that, that one has to go through to live a life that's enjoyable. And and Mark has been there every step of the way.
Right.
So I fast forward to a few years ago, and Jennifer and Josh would talk regularly, and just uplifting stuff and checking in. Josh is a great man. If everyone on this planet could have the same outlook on life and the same innocence and the same desire to just be happy and the same belief in the goodness of people that Josh's have, this world would be great. So, and he's gone through so much, and he still is positive, and he still, works hard and is looking to improve each day. And anyway, so Jennifer and Josh were talking weekly, and then Jennifer just did this doodle, and it was like of a dragon or whatever. And she said, "Well, who should we name this, Josh?" And Josh said, "Josh." Mm-hmm. So that sort of was the impetus of all this stuff, really using this little character, Josh, to talk about Josh's life and the things that he does and the challenges that he's overcome and the outlook he has on things. So the first book was called Josh's World, and that sort of set the groundwork. And then this last book that we did was Josh's Friends. And in the middle of this process, I sort of jumped in and now I'm talking to Josh regularly and helping him get ideas for these books and talk about what he believes in and what he's doing. And we're actually already working on the third book too, right now. So.
Nice. And you're not going to tell us anything about that, right? Just a teaser?
I don't think so. We'll come back and tell you when that's ready to go. Unless you want a little teaser.
Maybe towards the end. Let's see.
All right. Okay.
For now,
Yes.
thank you for your background, Paul. And I think so many times I just, through this podcast, I get to meet people who their stories always seem to involve, a lot of sort of engagement in life and engagement and being open to the possibilities that life brings you, but also there's just a little bit of magic and just happenstance that always comes into these stories. And in this case, it sounds like just the fact that that your wife was talking to Mark, who and then kind of made this connection. The doodle, I love that part of the story, which I read a little bit about too on some information I found on the web and in reading the books. Some things just happen, and they're right because they just happen. Nobody made that happen.
That's right.
And so I would agree with you. When I read the books and when I read a little bit about Josh's story, it's initially incredibly heartbreaking and heart-wrenching. Mm-hmm. The idea, it's sort of every parent's absolute worst nightmare that you're driving along with your young child, doing everything you think is safe and in the right equipment and the seats and all that. And you can't really do much when you're up against two semi trucks. So, but if you continue reading, and like you said, you start to leave yourself open for Josh's outlook on life. And it's not really just an appreciation for being alive and having survived that accident. It's kind of, in some ways, it's like you can see that this is probably a huge part of who he was at birth, and it's just coming out in a different way, because of his life experiences. But it turns out then you feel very uplifted. At least I did. I felt very uplifted and very sort of full of love and hope and light reading about his outlook and what he chose to do. So I just wanted to comment on that, because I think even if, as far as you get as a listener is to read a little bit about Josh and to check out these books online, you will have brightened your day. Hopefully you'll take it further and you'll buy the books and you'll read the books and you'll get them in your home or to your local schools or libraries. But either way, start with just checking it out. So Paul, can you tell us a little bit about, like, when you read Josh's World?
Yes.
What was your takeaway? Like, what really spoke to you about that first book in the series, which is now becoming a 3-part series?
Right. I think just that, I have a nephew who's on the spectrum too. So I understand a little bit about people with autism. Well, people with autism, people with brain challenges, they're regular people, I think sometimes when we're going through life and we see people different than us, we think that maybe they have different desires or different things that they like or different. No, I mean, Josh, he likes the Green Bay Packers, He likes to watch Hallmark movies. He likes people. Mm-hmm. And
which is huge. I always like to underscore that even in 2023,
right?
You have to keep putting that message out that people on the spectrum like being around other people. They can interact. They love to interact. It sometimes looks and feels a little bit differently.
Right.
But it doesn't mean ignore, leave me alone. I want to be isolated.
No.
Big important fact.
No, and we, as friends and families of those who are dealing with these types of challenges, we have to remember and we have to spread the word to others that these are regular people with the same goals, desires, likes, and dislikes as the rest of us, and we need to be a little bit more patient and understanding in our dealings with them, and then with that comes great rewards too. When you see Josh just beaming and happy, and when he's having a cup of coffee or whatever. Josh's World really is a great vehicle to introduce young people to that concept of interacting with those who are dealing with different challenges, those who are different than they are, right?
Yes.
And it's a way of connecting and making us feel that we're all in this together,
Yeah. And isn't it a wonderful, I love it when books and activities are focused on really young kids.
Yes.
Because I find, and I'm sure this is cliche, it's been said before, but I used to be a classroom teacher for elementary students. And if there is a group of people who really want to see the best in each other and in themselves, and are open to understanding things that others may find later in life scary or just off-putting because it's hard to understand, or different. It's a great way to make a lasting impact. So I love that it's designed to. When I was reading them, I was like, you could read these. This could be read by a grandparent to a grandchild. This could be read in the library at story time. This could be read in a classroom. So I thought that was a great move. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to continue this conversation and then talk about the project you were specifically involved in, which is Josh's Friends, the second.
Okay, great.
All right. This is 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and we'll be right back.
If I could be you.
And you could be me.
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's. The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you or someone you know is living with Parkinson's, a neurological disease that affects movement, we understand that it can be difficult to know where to find help.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers. Answers for everyone in the fight.
We can help you understand the disease.
Help you find expert care and local support.
Give you tips for living a better life.
And share the latest research.
Find your answers and join us in the fight against Parkinson's.
To learn more, please go to parkinson.org.
Or call 1-800-473-4636.
That's 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
And now, 1 in 44 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking today with Paul Perea, who is the co-author of a book with Josh Gablowski called Josh's Friends. We were just learning a little bit about Paul and how he came to meet Josh and his dad, Mark, and got involved in writing with Josh. I want to do two things real quick. One is about the show itself. I've been saying it's called 1 in 44, which is technically still the name of this show. Although if you haven't heard, the CDC did come out with new statistics. And so as we have been doing for many years on this podcast, stay tuned because shortly we will be announcing the new name of the show that will also reflect the new statistics for diagnoses in the United States among children on the autism spectrum. So just wanted to put that out there. And Paul, if you don't mind, I wanted to also just go back to the first part of the show where we stopped before the break. We were talking kind of about just the opportunity that I think those of us who are really involved with education and awareness and acceptance of all sorts of people, no matter, age, neurotype, whatever it might be, on the spectrum or not on the spectrum, anything. With young children, it brought me back again, like I said, to my teaching days. And many years ago, well before I worked at Anderson Center, I had a student in one of my classrooms who had Tourette syndrome. And one of those unbelievable moments as a teacher that I will never forget was the day that he decided that he wanted his classmates to understand why he had tics. And he didn't really make vocalizations, but he had physical tics. And he was with a group of students that were with him from when he was a pre-K kid all the way up through probably 8th grade. I had him in 3rd and 4th grade. And one day he asked to have kind of an assembly in the classroom just for his class, where he and his doctor, who he invited to come in, sat, and his mom, and they talked to the classroom about what Tourette's is and, why he has it and what his tics mean and why sometimes they got more intense and why sometimes they didn't. And I will never forget that moment, because I just sat there and I watched these little kids' faces who all knew him and were friends with him and loved him. But the openness with which they accepted and appreciated what he was sharing, and the questions they asked, and just the dynamic that happened when people, for whatever reason, are willing to share their stories and their experiences, especially with younger kids. Like I said, I mean, that has to be now over 20 years ago. And I will never forget that hour in my classroom when that was happening, because it changed everybody was affected by that. The kids were affected by it. The young boy who told the story was affected by it. His mother, I think, was stunned that he was able to do it. I don't think his doctor had ever done that with any other one of his patients. Sure. So I just tell that story because I think it's you're representing today on the show an opportunity that probably others listening might also have. And I like to encourage people to consider, whether it's through writing a book or doing a podcast or just telling your story or talking to your friends and family. It's good to put it out there.
Yeah.
That's my little soapbox. For the moment. Let's get back to you, Paul.
Okay.
So Josh's World was the first book in the series.
Right.
Josh wrote that by himself?
Josh and Jennifer.
Okay.
Yes. And the process is, it's a conversation. Mm-hmm. So with Josh's World, Jennifer and Josh, the books are an outcome of conversations. So Jennifer and Josh had a series over weeks, right? And for Josh's World, and then I did the same thing with Josh's Friends, and just talking about ideas. And in Josh's World, it was more of a descriptive about the things that he likes to do and the things that he does. And in Josh's Friends, we really were talking about and examining the idea of friendship. And Josh had a couple of really good friends that were with him all through school that were amazing. We made sure they were in the book, and just different ideas. One of the things that really, Josh and Mark were at a store around Christmas time, and some stranger just came up and gave Josh's dad, Mark, a whole bunch of money and said, buy him some nice gifts for Christmas. And that really stuck with Josh. And we talked about the idea of strangers can be friends. So we just, it's a series of conversations, ideas that go back and forth. And then I'm kind of just like the scribe to write it down.
So that's the process.
Yeah.
Josh is not able to be here with us for this interview right now, although maybe in the future we can have him on, and maybe Mark as well. But you, having interacted with Josh so much and knowing his process, which one of you knows when the story is finished?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, in writing, they say that nothing is ever really finished. You just decide to stop, right?
Okay.
So I think it was sort of a mutual thing, because he's we're already talking about the next one. And I'm like, how many of these do you want to do? He goes, until I don't feel like doing it anymore. So
I love it.
We'll keep having our conversations, and we'll see how many books come out of it. But I think we sort of mutually had exhausted the topic of Friends, and now we've moved on to something else.
Okay. And so we may or may not get a little teaser there before we end, but, so the World, the Friends, what has the general reaction and response in the community been to the two books?
Yeah, we were, when we were released, we were the number one Amazon new release in a bunch of different categories. Children's books, talking, hard discussions and diversity, and
great.
It's very, I think, look, this is not Shakespeare, right? But this is, these are good messages of honest depicting an honest person with challenges, trying to live his life and interact with friends, and like I said, it's a great tool. I think the most overwhelming responses we've got are people who say it's a great tool to introduce their children to people with disabilities.
Well, that's great. And I think, compared to the not so distant past, when anything like that was so difficult to find.
Right.
I think that there's a growing number of things, but there's certainly not enough. And since every person is a unique individual person with likes and dislikes, the more tools that we have and the more accessible ways to get them and to find them, the better. So, really, I want to thank you. We're going to wrap up in a minute, but I want to thank you for taking the time today, Paul, to talk about Josh's world, Josh's friends, and then do give us a little bit. Can you give us anything about what might be coming?
Josh's dad runs a karate school.
Okay.
And Josh is the chief culture officer of the karate school.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Okay.
And I'll leave it at that.
All right. So, and where can you get the books? Are there a number of places where we can go to find the books and to get the story?
Right now, it's just on Amazon.
Okay. So you can go to Amazon and you can order Josh's World and Josh's Friends, and probably sign up to get notifications when the third book might be coming out.
And the number one thing, too, is you can go, the link on Amazon is to Josh's website. And I'm really a bad promoter for not having that website handy.
I have it right here. I was just about to share it.
Okay.
Actually,
because I think the best thing that people can do is have dialogue and reach out to Josh and ask him questions. And whether you're on the spectrum, whether you're a family member, whether you're dealing with any challenges or not, that dialogue too, I think, can be the most helpful and healing for everyone.
Absolutely. And I'm going to shout them out right now, just so people know where to go. And we'll put them in the link when we post the link to the show as well, the podcast.
Okay.
So Joshua's website is Joshua Goblowski. So it's JOSHUAGOBLOWSKY.com. And MarkGoblowski.com, which is MarkGoblowsky.com. You can also check out his website, where you can learn a little bit more about Mark, again, who is Josh's dad and has really been an advocate and a supporter all along Josh's journey, which also obviously as a parent was his journey as well. And I'm sure he went through quite a lot during this whole time. So Paul Perea, thank you so much for your time coming on the show today.
Liza,
go to Amazon and check out Josh's World and Josh's Friends. And I can't wait to read number 3.
All right, you got it.
All right, thank you so much. This is 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 44, a weekly presentation of the Anderson Center for Autism. Join us for another edition of the show at this time next weekend.